Our story begins with the man sitting quietly, trying to read a book from his palace library, and we know that this man is a nobleman. As for his servant, he was standing beside him very steadily. And to make you understand with me, my friend, the viewer, this nobleman a few days ago was a poor servant working daily wages in one-off companies that sucked the blood of their employees. Suddenly he closed his eyes and opened them to find himself in a strange world. But he was very accepting of the situation and felt that it was normal because he had seen this story happen 100 times before, so the matter was not strange to him. But there was only one question that puzzled him and was driving him crazy, which was that the book was holding did not show any translation, or did it show him a strange system since he had moved to another world to give him his mission. This silly talk, but, oh my! In the corner, the servant was sitting watching, surprised, saying why his master was holding the book with clamps, and he thought it was on top of his head and going back again. He neither knows how to read nor write, and at this time, our hero was sitting thinking and saying that we until now hasn't he had any system that gives him missions and increases his strength, and he just sits there saying, give me some superpower or something, instead of feeling like he's just on the edge. But as soon as he hears the maid calling young master, the food is ready, he pours everything out, goes crazy, and his eyes widen to the fullest as soon as he sees a long, wide table in front of him filled with all kinds of delicious food, chicken, stuffed dishes, salads, baba ganoush, and he sits happily because finally, he will eat good food instead of the food that used to torment his heart in his old life, from fast food to rotten fried stuff. Why the instant noodles you're craving so much? Surely, dear viewer. And after our hero fills his stomach with all kinds of delicious food, the maid starts showing him respect and tells him she will help him take his bath before he goes to his room to sleep. So he sits with his belly in a big bathtub, and the servants are massaging his shoulders, back, and neck. And our hero keeps saying, ah, your bones, Reza. This is, my friend, the real life, and all this. Dear viewer, because our hero was born as a young master in the noble Khan family, he didn't even know anything about it or about his family or the place at all. But brother, this was the perfect life. Then the maid starts telling him, while cleaning his body, reminding him that his older brothers will start returning to the palace and that he's supposed to go to bed early today. Of course. He wonders who they are anyway, and she also tells him with a look of great surprise and astonishment that your brother, the young master, and your eldest brother, the young master Leo Platino, and the young master Tonio Platino. So our hero sits and says to himself, Platino, why do I feel like I've heard this name before? And oh my, his heart wasn't at peace. Suddenly he remembers and grabs his head as if is about to scream in the water. So the services get terrified off him, and he keeps saying, oh black day, please, please. I must be wrong. Surely I'm not in Sicilia, right? And Sicilia, sir, is a game that our hero used to play to ease his fatigue and the worries that weighed on his shoulders, to cheer himself up a bit. He said that instead of making things easier for him, it made him very angry and he fell into depression because of it. Since no matter how much he played and whatever he did, at the first moment when the 5 great big names appeared in the entire kingdom, even the nobles would bow down and everyone was dying. No. And also among all the nobles and respectable familiars present in the kingdom, he is now the youngest son of the evil Blasio family. And this family, sir, is involved in everything forbidden. The eldest son, Leo Blasio, is the king of kings of prostitution and slave and human rental, while the second son, Tonio Blasio, is the biggest drug lord in the kingdom. And God willing, mashallah, God willing, mashallah, these, sir, were inside the game world in the first story and side quest, and the first family of the great big names will wipe them off the face off the earth. As for our hero, his true personality, he is Plato one of the villains inside the game, and he is the third son of the Kent family. So he sits there saying, oh my eye, imagining the horrible way he will die soon. He starts to mourn himself and goes to hold a rose on his grave, waiting for his fate to come to him. And oh my eye, he keeps praying to God to bring him back again, and he will be satisfied with the life of a slave that he used to live in his old life when he worked 80 hours a week just to eat a simple sandwich without any meat in the end. So what good is the rich life he is living now? Unfortunately, oh my eye, he will die in 10 years and then start to turn into a mad sky and send down to the earth in the farms so they can grow a new plant. Oh my eye, Plato sits and thinks to himself, why does everyone get very strong abilities and a promotion system, and I don't even know how to read like normal people? All the servants, oh my eye, keep laughing at me. No, Sandy, wait a moment, isn't this supposed to happen in 10 years? So I can do anything in this period, and if I manage to reach and prevent the causes of destruction from their roots before they form, I might return to continue this comfortable life and luxury and live peacefully without worrying about anything or the 5 great names. And sir, these 5 great names are just children currently, so what will happen if I save them and become their official guardian and shepherd and keep them away from the causes? What will make them villains in the future? Then they will owe me their lives. And this, dear viewer, is Plato's great plan to continue his life without anything happening to him. After about 2 months pass, * 2 months ago, he said he was sitting in the library when his personal guard came to him and presented a report on the mission and what they were assigned to do. They started to learn that they had rescued the orphans from the Eastern Orphanage, and what came out in the end was a human testing center. They left the management of that shelter to a little girl named Hoyt, one of the children who were orphans and whom the guard had saved. Then Alon tells him, "Very good. Nice work you did. It's clear my trust in you was well placed since you didn't let me down." But the guard, whose name was Ivan, started asking him, "Are you praising me now? Because I don't see any good expressions on your face at all." Alon tried to show him by smiling and said, "Yes, I'm proud to work with you and that you continue your service to me." Ivan's eyes were sitting there, not blinking, and his eyes hurt from the sight he was seeing in front of him now, so he closed his eyes out of disgust. Alon tried to look in the mirror to see his facial expression and started saying that in his past life, his feelings showed very easily on his face, but this new face had something strange. The important thing is, he said to himself, that this Ivan was a very rare character inside the main story events, which were all full of betrayal and treachery and people killing each other. He was the only one who remained honest and loyal to his master. As soon as the boss saw him, he immediately went and dragged him. Ivan at that time told him that he was very surprised when this mission started, and it was a mission to rescue the girl, but now he understood the reason because even from her look, it was clear that she was a person who had lived her whole life as a hunter and that she killed other people to the extent that made him sure she left them to follow her but was hiding her strength, and he couldn't understand why she did that despite all the torture. Dot begins to ask why he didn't bring her here, and this is a big loss. Now he tells him this is a good observation, but he doesn't know that in reality, he had planned to leave her in the orphanage first because the bloodthirsty Queen Utia is one of the members of the Blood Tribe, a non-human race, and he had a contract with an absolute ruler from another world who grants them absolute power. A terrifying monster. In truth, hundreds of thousands of humans were brutally slaughtered, and she would earn the title of the Sin of Wrath. She is also one of the 5 great names, but if she grows up in safety, peace, and a kind environment, he will be able to prevent all that destruction and ruin. Dot and Amish will be evil characters in the future, but he couldn't tell him this now. Currently, he must respond with anything so the guard doesn't suspect him. After quick thinking, he calmly replies that the time has not yet come, but the guard Ivan feels that this talk is mysterious and has a very deep meaning behind it. He puts his hand under his chin like that and thinks. Then he orders that this matter be kept in complete silence and that no one should ever sense it. He makes sure that the orphanage will receive sufficient ***. He lets his blood be spilled everywhere while she angrily tells his corpse, "It's too late." And in the game, sir, after this him fails, she immediately starts the rosary. But now she is still a child, and somehow this message might succeed. So why not try? And then it's really funny that you could tame a wild, fierce beast like this with just a charm and a few dead words. But she comes from a fanatic tribe that glorifies a ruler from another world. That's why it's hard to predict what will happen, because their way of thinking is strange and changes. The scene shifts to a child with white hair and crimson red eyes standing and reading the message, while the guard Evan stands before her, stunned, his body trembling from the amount of magical energy he senses from the girl. He can't believe that all this energy is coming from such a small child. As soon as the girl starts speaking in front of him, Evan is shaken, and she begins to ask him why my master, who saved me, doesn't call me to come to him and sit beside him. The density of the red and crimson energy begins to increase to the point that anyone can see and feel it with their naked eyes, freezing Evan in place. He starts to stammer, unable to speak because he understands very well that this magical energy is impossible for anyone to reach except the desert of the highest level. The girl looks at him, waiting for his response, and he remembers Ellen's words. At that moment, he tells her that the master said the time has not yet come. Her energy gradually decreases and calms down, and she closes her eyes, hugging the message, saying with great joy, "I understand, this is the appointment only my master knows." But her personality begins to change, and she radiates a desire for bloodshed and intense killing, **, and the instinct of caution and survival. is what drives Ivan and makes him involuntarily put his hand on his sword, and the girl's hair starts flying in sky because of the many professions she has and the magical powers, while she is smiling madly and saying with her eyes shining, "I now understand what you want from me, sir. Don't worry, I won't disappoint you, and every order of yours will be obeyed." At the same time, he pulls the cover over the bed and starts to sleep, very happy and pleased, and he looks at the moon, feeling like he is receiving a message encouraging him to do good, and he begins to sleep a sweet sleep, the likes of which he had never had in his entire life, not even in his past life, and he starts snoring and rolling on the pillow. Then, the next day, sir, the books fall on Alan's head inside his library, so the guard Ivan runs to him, and Alan starts cursing his luck because until now he had not been able to find any evidence regarding the third leader, who is one of the 5 greats in Nosovin that they saved the second child Waith had told him about before, so he starts to gather earth books that fell on his head while asking him, "Have you confirmed the child's treatment kindly?" Ivan confirms this and says they took good care of him after they saved everyone from the slave market, which was conducted illegally. But before they finish their conversation, a strange man suddenly breaks the library door, and sir, it turns out to be one of his older brothers, the second son of the Count Platino family, and his name is Tonio. Tonio goes to Ellen immediately and starts resting his arm like that on Ellen's face as if it were just a desk in front of him. Besides, he keeps mocking him and says to him, "How can someone like you, who neither reads nor writes, be sitting there holding a book? Could it be that you have really started studying seriously lately?" But Ellen keeps silent and does not respond to his older brother. He starts tapping his head like that and tells him, "When your older brother talks to you, you must respond to him." He sits and says to himself, enduring with difficulty and wondering how the owner of that body who was there before him tolerated all that humiliation and really wanted to hit him. But if he did that, he would only make the situation worse. Suddenly, his stomach cramps, and he falls to the ground immediately. He asks permission to leave since his older brother wants to use the library now. But at that moment, Tonio steps on his head and keeps humiliating him. Besides, he sits and rubs his foot in his hair while arrogantly telling him, "It's good that you know your place well." Suddenly, something is thrown at him and pauses directly beside his face. When he looks at it, he finds a knife stuck in the wood next to him. It turns out to be the older brother who was standing at the entrance. He stands and shouts at them in a sharp tone, threateningly saying, "You little insects, I don't want to see anyone's blood in front of me this morning." He pulls a blanket from the middle of them, grabs both of them, and they start exchanging threats. But Batlana drags himself away from all these problems and sings to evil and prays for it. The idea is that Count Platyo disappeared quickly in the game, but their power was much greater than Batlana thought. So what now? The 2 older brothers are in a struggle for the position of head of the family. The family consists of villainous characters in constant competition, the king of prostitution, the king of debauchery, the owner of gangs, and of course drugs, meaning nothing but disasters will come from them. He leaves the library crawling, though he has nothing to do with it, and his guard is walking behind him, and the 2 start fighting each other. The library becomes completely chaotic, and Ivan outside is patting our hero on the head and telling him no matter what happens, he should stay away from trouble and live a life of calm and happiness, far from headaches, even if he is just a despicable, weak person with no purpose. After a while, he throws himself on the couch, so they informed guard Ivan that the second child they rescued was never normal either, but he looks at him like he wasn't really focused on him, and lets Ivan stop his car, so Ivan begins to suspect him. He wonders how this fool discovered the evil of illegal slaves in the orphanage, and what biological experiments were being done on them, which was full of innocent children, and that something was wrong as Ivan was hiding his true self and his real personality. He starts throwing himself on the couch and rests a bit from the disgust of what was happening to him. Ivan starts asking him why he was also sent to the orphanage, and he begins to think a bit before and swearing that this child was not normal. No. He was at a catastrophic level and could affect the entire nation. The kingdom is actually a union of several small kingdoms, and their center is Kingdom of Kalian. As for the second sin among the 5 great names, which was called Malakim, he was sold, tortured, and humiliated, and kept moving from place to place, treated like merchandise, not a human, and all this accumulated inside him and he never forgot it. After that, he turned into the sin of laziness and began destroying kingdoms, one after another in the most horrible ways you can imagine. And that was just part of the story of the game world, in which most people were surprised by how bloody and cruel this game was. Alan's hand began to tremble and shake as he said, contrary to his nickname of laziness, He was very diligent and would respond to everything done to him with multiplied force. This particular reason was what especially gripped him and assured Ivan that he would treat him very gently and tried to show him that he was calm and cold and that nothing was wrong. Finally, he responded to the guard Ivan that the time had not yet come and that the moment was not right. Ivan expected this answer and asked him if the message sent by Yutia regarding that child was also true. Alan replied to him, saying, "Okay, it was indeed about him, with some talk about my daily life and all that, just to encourage her to share her life with me as well. Besides that, I asked her to take care of this sick child whom I sent to the orphanage." All the children now were playing in the green spaces in front of the orphanage, but there was only one child wearing cloth whose whole body was full of scars and remained still, not moving until night came. He heard the sound of footsteps approaching him and the voice of a girl calling him, "You are truly broken, and all those marks on your body were because of the black god, weren't they?" She approached him more closely while he looked at her cautiously. She placed her hands on his thigh and smiled quietly. "Yet our master, the great moon, ultimately chose you, Nina, who is very severe with him." She began to open both his arms, and a crimson-red aura emerged round them as she said to him in a sharp voice, "Okay, now you must feel the power of the gift I will give you and unleash your abilities." She extended her hands to him and said, "If you pledge absolute loyalty, you will get your revenge, asterisk asterisk." And oh my, our hero didn't know that Yutia is crying now. Anyway, this child starts putting his hand on his head and tries to control himself, but threads of the spirit of the gypsy burst out from his back and start flying in the air around them. Yutia holds the letter and raises it towards the moon. Alan was telling her about his day with his older brothers in a comedic and funny way and informs her that she should take care of the new child, who starts telling him that His Excellency has issued the first order and must receive a response from us very soon. After 2 days, at the palace, Blasios' guard Ivan storms into the library where Alan was drowning in books, searching for any clue about the third child. He calls out loudly, and they realize that a disaster has happened and that his young brother, Tonio Blasio, has died. At the funeral, everyone is standing there wearing black robes. The scene changes to Alan standing in front of his brother's coffin, while their father, Count Blasio, sits with 2 ladies. They are sitting and saying, "When will this end? We are bored." And they start feeling hungry. Galan begins to tell us, "I know this is a dark story and that this family is indeed corrupt, but I never imagined it would reach the point where my father brought prostitutes and even drugs to his son's funeral. But the important thing now is that Tonio died from an accidental fall from the window, as if it was just a mistake and something that was expected. But this is different from the main events of the game's story, where his brother was supposed to kill him after years of struggle for the throne, and he would sit crying in despair over him. But now he can't hide his smile from his face, and he is sure that he or one of the followers ordered what happened. He stands silently looking at his brother's corpse, telling himself that he has nothing to do with their succession struggle, and the most important thing now is to solve the problem of the 5th sin. After the full year passed in the Kent district and after the Caliphate conflict ended, his older brother Leo managed to take full control of the drug trade, along with his gang. His brother, and all the followers under him in the Plateau family became more stable. He said that he and the guard Ivan were sitting, enjoying luxurious sweets, and while drinking tea, he was reading Yuti's letter, smiling and thinking about how cruel the world is to these children. At the end of the letter, Yuti had written him a list of the orphans at the orphanage for that month. He and Ivan were surprised that this list had increased again. Even though it was a small orphanage, the guard Ivan informed him that the information syndicate had contacted them and told him they had found evidence regarding the matter they had requested. He responded calmly, reading carefully, saying this was very reassuring. Deep inside, he was very happy that he had managed to find evidence of the third crime. When the afternoon came, he sat contemplating the sunset, feeling a great calm inside, as if everything was finally going smoothly and without any problems. During the night, we hear screams, death, sword stabbings, and a huge commotion in the atmosphere inside Quaramarawait. This was one of the drug distribution sites, and 2 of Leo's followers were happily walking with a lot of money that the eldest son of the Plateau family had been paying them after their previous lead died, or rather, his younger brother Tun, and after he died, their organization became much bigger. They were brazenly looking at the rosary that had been taken and the bodies of their enemies from another organization. It was only a matter of time before they would take over the entire black market, but suddenly, they started screaming and their hands began moving on their own, and they had no control over their hands or their bodies at all, and they start grabbing swords and daggers, and even the 2 who were together start experiencing the same thing. Oh my! None of them saw the very thin purple loot lines coming out of them, and suddenly the loud collective screams fill the entire place. Then the knife floats terrifyingly, shaking the atmosphere, and the swords begin to pierce their necks, followed by the sound of death and the gurgling of blood as the soul completely leaves the body. So she moves. Siusha is in front of him and the girl is gathering the people around her and shuttles him. Of course, this helps because we're laying the foundation stone so that he returns to us again and lives in front of us. And her hair begins to float in the air as she explains to him that they must never let their Lord's throne be stained and defiled by the dogs. When he returns to us again, he replies to her with just one word, which is that he understands, and before they both rush from the ground amidst a whirlwind of magic and fly into the stormy night sky, they start looking at the view from above, and Yuji tells him everything is fasting according to the will of our great moon. And suddenly a huge explosion shakes the village and leaves a very large circular mark. Inside this mark, there is a huge crescent engraved in the earth, and she continues in a sharp voice, because we, the blue moon, will become the sword of our great Lord and his honored presence. And here our video ends for today. Don't forget to pray for my parents with mercy and forgiveness and for our oppressed brothers and sisters, and write to me if you want us to continue this story or not. And please don't forget to like and subscribe, and send greetings to the most wonderful people in the world.